I love my girlfriend, but I'm not attracted to her. She saved my sobriety, yet I fantasize about others, and now I'm afraid I'll break us. I, 20 male, am not physically attracted to my girlfriend, 19 female. We first started dating because I was in my hoe phase and was getting lonely. She was my main for about a year and a half before a friend and my friend got into a big fight, and we mutually cut things off until one night I was drunk and complaining to my buddy about how lonely I was when he suggested that I took her on a date. Later that night, when I was still wasted, I called her and asked her out, and she said yes with the condition that I was sober for the date. I was struggling pretty bad with alcohol at the time. I agreed, and we went out and both had a great time and decided to keep taking those steps. Fast forward over a year and a half later, and I have fallen in love with her as a person, but not really with how she looks. I'm confused because I don't want to break up with her because, like I said, I'm so very much in love with who she is. Super sweet, kind, considerate, funny, smart, but just not how she looks. Also, to clarify, she is very much conventionally attractive, thin, fit, pretty, but I personally wouldn't choose to date her based off of her looks. Am I being stupid and/or vain? She has helped me grow and mature, as well as deal with my substance abuse problems so much, and I care about her and love her. But if I could change the way she looked, I would. That's the ugly center of it. I keep wanting to sand down the edges and make it sound nicer, like I'm wrestling with some abstract philosophy, but it's blunt and shitty. I love her. I don't want her. Both things are true, and I hate that they can exist in the same room without killing each other. When we dated the first time, it wasn't dating. I had 2 jobs, work and chasing the next hit of dopamine. I rotated girls like playlists, and she was the one I came back to. Not because I was obsessed with her body or mesmerized by her face. Honestly, I wasn't even locking in on that. She was easy to be around. She laughed at my dumb jokes. She kept snacks in her bag. She didn't blow up my phone when I disappeared. I'd swing through after other plans fell apart, flop on her bed, run my mouth, pass out, wake to coffee and a granola bar she'd leave on the desk. I called her my main like I was a rapper, and this was a tour. I cringe even typing that. The fight that blew us up wasn't even ours. Her best friend, let's call her Jess, was dating my guy Ryan, and those two fought like they'd been married 30 years. One night at a party, someone said something about someone's phone, DMs got waved like flags, and Jess chucked a white claw that nailed Ryan's cheekbone. He snapped. They screamed. Drinks spilled. Somebody shoved somebody else. I grabbed my girl, call her Maya, by the wrist and pulled her out, and she yanked away and said, "Don't pull me." And then we were barking at each other on the sidewalk about respect and how I always bounce when things get hot. I said, "I'm not trying to play dad here." And she said, "Then stop acting like you own me." And suddenly it wasn't about Jess and Ryan anymore. It was about the fact that my version of caring looked like control, and hers looked like defending her friend no matter what. We mutually cut it off the next day, which just meant I ghosted for real and she didn't chase. I doubled down on drinking after that. You want honesty? I'm the drunk who turns sentimental and talks about the universe on a porch at 3 a.m. while chain-smoking a pack I don't smoke. I threw my feelings into a blender and pretended whatever came out was a smoothie. I told myself I didn't miss her. I told myself she was just a slot in the rotation. I told myself a lot of garbage while I scrolled contacts at 2 a.m. and chose every name but hers. Fast forward to a night last year where I'm sitting on my buddy Nate's futon, the one that smells like gym socks and old pizza, and I'm drunk enough that the room is doing that slow boat ride thing. I'm whining about being lonely. I'm saying the same lines every lonely drunk says. Everyone's fake. I'm done with hookups. I'm just gonna focus on me. He's nodding like a bobblehead because he's heard this sermon before. And then he goes, "Why don't you call Maya? You actually liked her." I laughed. "I used her, dude." "You used everyone," he said. "She's the only one who wasn't using you back." That hit. I shot him a look like, "Don't be right." He shrugged. I dialed her anyway. I didn't even think. The phone rang, and her voice came through, calm and clean, like she'd been expecting it. "Are you drunk?" were her first words. "Yeah," I said. No point lying. I was slurring every other word. "But listen, could we go on a date? Like a real one?" Silence. I heard a clicking noise, like she was turning a pen in her fingers. She finally said, "If you're sober when you ask me again, I'll say yes. Not sober tonight. Sober for the date. You're putting conditions on me?" I joked, because I joke when I'm nervous. "Yes," she said, "because I'm not doing the last version of us again. I care about you. That doesn't mean I will make myself stupid." It was like she'd reached through the phone and set my spine straight. "Okay," I said. "I'll call you tomorrow." "You can call me when you've been sober a week," she said, and then she hung up. It pissed me off in the moment. The drunk part of me wanted to perform hurt pride, but the sober part of me, small, quiet, curled up like an animal that hadn't been fed in days, heard the deal. A week. Could I even do a week? I told Nate she's playing games, and he went, "Or, she's setting a boundary, you idiot." I waved him off and passed out on the futon. I woke up at 5 a.m. with a headache that felt like a nail gun and an ugly little clarity. I either wanted her or I didn't. If I wanted her, this was the cost of admission. Not a grand gesture. A week. I could white-knuckle a week. So I did. I sweat through the first night. I shook on the second. I counted hours, chewed gum until my jaw hurt, sprinted up the same 3 blocks after work because movement felt like the only way to outrun the voice saying, "Come on, just one beer." I texted Nate every time I wanted a cave, and he sent back middle fingers and "Don't be a coward." Day 7, I called Maya. "I've been sober a week," I said. She didn't congratulate me. She said, "Pick me up Friday at 6. No bar. I don't care if you're fine around alcohol. No bar." I said okay. I showered that Friday like it was a job interview. I ironed a shirt I didn't even know I owned. I cleaned my car, scrubbed the coffee stains off the cup holder, dumped the Red Bull graveyard in the back seat. I practiced not breathing vodka on people even though I hadn't had vodka in 7 days. I picked her up and she stepped out in these simple jeans and a gray sweater and white sneakers, hair tied up, no big production, and I felt this stupid ache in my chest because she looked like someone you could actually build a life with. Not a billboard, not a fantasy. A person. We went to a tiny Thai place that smelled like basil and garlic the second you opened the door. She watched me scan the room like a bouncer avoiding a fight, and she touched my wrist, just a touch, 2 fingers, and said, "There's no bar here." "I know," I said, voice tight. "You're safe," she said. That was the date. Not fireworks, not some grand speech. She asked good questions and let me answer badly. She told me she'd been taking a ceramics class because she needed to make things with her hands. She never asked me to promise anything. She said, "If we keep seeing each other, I won't live at your pace. You'll have to slow down to mine sometimes." I nodded like you understood pacing. I didn't, but I wanted to. We took more steps. Coffee dates. Walks where I left my phone in the car because the phone might as well have been a flask. She came to a meeting with me once. Sat in a too bright room while I told a circle of strangers that I wasn't in control, and she teared up at the word control and squeezed my hand under the table like you don't have to couch this in jokes with me. I relapsed once. I won't give you the noble version. I walked past a bar, went in to use the bathroom, and came out 3 hours later smelling like beer. I called her from a sidewalk and said, "I'm messed up," and braced for the instructions that I'd burned my last bridge. She said, "Okay, go home. Sleep. Call your sponsor. We'll talk tomorrow." "We'll talk tomorrow" was the kindest sentence anyone had ever said to me. It was also why I fell in love with her. You can scream a screw up, and they'll nod while planning the next lie. Or you can say, "We'll handle this," and the screw up will stick around long enough to learn how. So we built something. Not that love montage where you paddle a canoe and feed each other grapes. More like 2 people dragging lumber into a muddy yard and arguing about where the foundation goes. We fought. She called me out when my apologies sounded like brand strategy. I called her out when her loyalty to her friends bent into martyrdom. We learned to do the dishes without turning the kitchen into a courtroom. We held each other through funerals that didn't belong to us. She folded a blanket over my shoulders when I shook on night 3 of nothing to numb me. I took her to the DMV at 7 in the morning because she hates bureaucracy more than death. She sat on the floor of my room while I cleaned out a duffel bag of empty nip bottles and said, "Throw them away. You don't need to explain each one to me." I said, they're just trash. And she said, then stop keeping them. Here's the rotten piece I kept shoving in the closet. I wasn't attracted to her the way I told myself I should be. It's not that she's unattractive. She is that Instagram safe, mom approved pretty, clear skin, green eyes that crinkle when she laughs, runner's legs, shoulders that look like she swims. Random guys hit on her when she's in sweatpants. She puts on a sundress and an old lady at the grocery store says, "What a darling girl." My friends, some of whom are children in grown bodies, nod and go, "You're lucky." I know all that. I can see it, but my gut doesn't lie. I'd be lying if I said it ever had. Even when we were in Maine, I didn't pick her out of a crowded room with my eyes. I picked her because my soul could nap next to her. Every time I had that thought, shame rushed in like water. Who the hell did I think I was? A catalog model? I spent the last 2 years picking fights with bottles and losing. She held my hair when I threw up. She changed plans because my hand was shaking. And I'm here compiling an inner Pinterest board of types. I told myself to get over it, and sometimes I did. Other times it sat on my chest like a cinder block. Sex made it worse. Not because it was bad. It wasn't. She's generous and tuned in and unselfish in a way I didn't deserve. But my brain is a dog that sprints after a squirrel the second it hears a rustle. I'd be there with her, present. Then my mind would flick to some old image or ideal, and I'd have to drag it back by the collar. I started managing sex like a project. Light off. This angle, not that one. I make excuses. I'm just tired. I'm stressed. It's not you. I knew she was clocking the distance. She asked once, soft, not accusing, "Do you still want me?" "I love you," I said, because it was the truest sentence I had. I saw the tiny flinch at the corner of her mouth, like I'd handed her the wrong answer on purpose. I wish I could say I walked into therapy and said, "Fix this," and a wise person handed me the key. What happened is I told my therapist, "I think I'm shallow," and he said, "You're not the first person to fall in love with someone whose face doesn't match their fantasy." Then he asked, "What are you doing to not be in your body?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "You treat feelings like they're puzzles to solve. Attraction's not a spreadsheet." He told me to stop porn. I laughed. Not because I'm addicted to porn, but because I've used porn for years like a mood regulator. He looked at me like I'd brought a knife to a gunfight. "You want your body to be with your girlfriend?" he said. "Stop outsourcing it to strangers on your phone." I deleted the apps. It helped a little. It also made the ache louder sometimes. Reality does that. I try to hack attraction anyway. I bought her lingerie I thought would do it, and it looked beautiful on her, and I still had to wrestle my mind back from the cliffs. I asked if she wanted to change her hair, then wanted to bite my tongue because the second it left my mouth, I heard how it sounded. "Could you be someone else for me?" She said, calm as always, "I'm not a doll." I said, "I know, I'm sorry." And we didn't touch for 2 days because sorry doesn't unsay a thing. We argued about that one. Real argument. She said, "I'm trying to understand how to be with you without feeling like an audition." And my shame mutated into anger, and I shot back. "I'm trying to be sober and show up and love you right, and my stupid lizard brain won't play along." She said, "Then stop feeding the lizard." And I yelled, "I'm not." And she said, "Then stop treating me like I'm the problem you need to fix." I said, "I never said you were the problem." And she said, "You asked me to change my hair." And I said, "I was desperate." And she said, "Desperate isn't an excuse to point your fear at me." Then we both got very quiet. We apologized like adults, which is boring and harder than it looks. She went for a walk. I cleaned the kitchen because I needed to move my hands and feel like I could complete one thing the right way. Nate, of course, had takes. "Dude," he said, "you're trying to treat attraction like a diet. You think if you cut out porn or change lighting or buy lingerie, you'll crave her the way TikTok says a man should crave his woman. Maybe you won't. You can either make peace with that or leave." I told him to shut up. "You asked," he said. "He's annoying when he's right." My mom even got involved accidentally. She liked Maya from day one because Maya says "please" to waiters and shows up 5 minutes early. Over dinner one Sunday, my mom served roast chicken and asked Maya about classes. Maya answered, and then my mom looked at me and said, "You look absent." In that way, only moms can, like she's calling you out for unplugging from your own life. In the car afterward, Maya said, "You were distant today. Do you want to tell me why, or do you want to be alone with it?" She gives me the out because she knows I sometimes choose to drown solo. I said, "I'm embarrassed." She said, "I know." We drove the rest of the way quiet, her hand sitting open on the console, palm up like a landing pad. I put my hand on it. I tried telling her parts of it without laying the bomb. I said, "I feel broken sometimes," and she said, "Me too." And that wasn't what I meant, and also exactly what I meant. I said, "I don't know why my head gets in the way," and she said, "It always has," which felt like she'd been taking notes on me since day one. I didn't tell her, "Sometimes I want to change your face," because that sentence is violence. I wish I didn't think it. I do. We had a good stretch this summer. Sober months keep stacking, and there's a calm that comes with that. We fell into a routine. Sunday night, groceries. Tuesday, no phone. Nights where we play a card game she taught me and trash talk like we're on ESPN. She'll throw a card and say, "Learn the rules," and I'll say, "Make better rules," and she'll call me an idiot and grin. We hiked once, and she annihilated me on the uphill, looked back, offered me water, said, "You need to stop vaping." And I said, "Mind your business." And she said, "I am. It's my business if you die." And then we both laughed, winded. Those days I wanted her. Not in the knocked out, can't breathe way of lust. I've had that, and half the time it's just a trance, but in a we made our own bubble way. We'd fall into bed, and I'd surprise myself by actually being fully there. I'd sink into whatever she was offering and not scan for better angles. It made me think, okay, this is possible. My body can catch up. My brain can be taught. Then a picture pops up on my phone of some random perfect face. I don't even follow these people. The algorithm knows I stopped drinking and decided to tempt me with fitness models, and suddenly I'm comparing the woman I love to a stranger who doesn't know I exist. I throw my phone across the room, like that makes me noble. I pick it up again. I hate that about me. I hate the part that keeps chasing the hunger that never ends. It's the same part that love chasing shots. It whispers, "There's a better buzz over there," and doesn't care what over there costs. Maya knows me too well to not sense the comparison monster. She won't ask, "Who is she?" because she's not in a high school movie. She'll say, "Are you with me right now?" in bed, and if I pause, she'll pull back, not pouting, just removing herself because she refuses to become a prop. That's the thing about her. She won't debase herself to solve my problem. She'll help me. She won't perform it. It makes me love her more and feel more disqualified in the same breath. I keep asking myself the ugliest version of the question. If nothing changes, can I stay? If attraction stays at a 6 on a good day and the 2 on a bad one, am I a monster for tying her to me? Do I break this and watch her find someone who looks at her like she's the sun and eat the grief and tell myself that's what a decent person does? I have trouble trusting myself to answer with anything but self-punishment or self-preservation. Some days, I think I should leave to set her free. Other days, I think leaving would be running back to a life I barely survived. She's helped me grow. That phrase sounds like a Hallmark card, but I mean it like this. She has held up a mirror and also a rope. She has said, "This is what you look like when you're lying," and she has said, "Hold on to this while you get out." She is the only reason my mornings feel like mornings and not bleary rewinds. I owe her a lot. I know you're not supposed to owe your partner. You're supposed to give each other choice and gratitude, not ledgers. But I feel indebted, and debt can rot into resentment if you're not careful. I don't feel resentment. I feel terrified of becoming the guy who does. We've had more than one argument where she has asked me what I want, and I've dodged. She'll say, "What do you want from us?" And I'll answer, "I want us," because I think I'm being romantic. She'll say, "That's not an answer," and I'll twist it into a joke, and she'll say, "I'm not laughing." She deserves a partner who isn't always writing speeches in his head to avoid saying the damn sentence. There's a night I keep replaying. A couple weeks ago, we're on my couch. She's pretending to read and actually watching me because I'm scrolling, and she knows my scroll face, and she says it, "I want you to stop looking for a different me on your phone." She doesn't raise her voice. She just drops the truth on the coffee table between us like a heavy book. I say too fast. I'm not. She looks down, then back up, eyebrows raised, that specific Maya look that says I was born at night, not last night. I put my phone face down like a teenager. I'm not trying to find a different you. I say, slower. I'm trying to figure out how to make my brain be with the person I love. Your brain, she says, Rye, is not an intern who needs management tips. She shuts her book. I'm not mad you're broken. Everyone's broken. I'm scared you'll make me a project you resent when it doesn't turn out the way you think. I can't be your sobriety token. I can't be your self-improvement plan. I could be your partner. Those are different. I drag a hand over my face. So what do you want me to do? Decide if you want to be with me, she says. Not the fantasy you think you're owed. Me. If the answer's yes, then be with me. Not perfect, just honest. If the answer's no, you should let me go. Do you want me? I ask, and I'm ashamed of the begging in my voice. Yes, she says instantly, but I don't want to convince you to want me back. We sit in silence. The clock ticks like it's tattling. I say, I'm scared if I tell you everything you'll hate me. She says I might. Then we'll know. I love her for that. I also swallow the full confession because I can't bring myself to say, I wish I could change the way you look. How do you recover from that line? Can you? Even if it's a thought and not a demand, once it's said, it's like putting a crack in a glass and then asking it to hold water like before. I told my therapist that. He said, you're confusing honesty with cruelty. Sometimes the honest thing is to say, I have a problem I'm working on that affects us, and then do the work. Not to hand your partner a list of their features as if the problem is them. That's not honesty. That's abdication. So I'm doing work. Not Instagram work, where I post a selfie in the mirror and talk about growth. Real stuff. I stopped filling dead time with fantasy. I stopped following accounts that feed the beast. I started sitting in discomfort without sprinting for a distraction. I fail constantly. I succeed enough to notice small shifts. I look at Maya across a table and register the exact slant of light on her cheek, the way she chews the corner of her lip when she's thinking, the little scar on her knuckle from when she sliced a bagel wrong, and something in me hums like, yes, human. Yes, home. It's not fireworks. It's a pilot light. If you've ever lost heat and then heard the furnace kick back on, you know that sound. We had a party last weekend. I was nervous, a lot of loud, a lot of people who don't know the line between fun and chaos. I stuck near the kitchen. Maya bounced around, hugging people, then circling back to squeeze my shoulder. A girl I used to hook up with showed up, all glossy and loud, and she zeroed in on me with that smirk like, oh, we had a thing. She leaned against the counter and said, hey, stranger. I felt old habits crack their knuckles. I saw the choice. Sprint toward the familiar burn and call it proof I'm still alive, or stay where I was. Maya slid in, not claiming me like property, just stepping into the conversation. Hi, she said, a glossy girl, kind, not threatened. I introduced them. Glossy girl looked Maya up and down and said, you're cute, with that tone that sounds like a compliment and a knife. Maya smiled genuinely and said, thanks. You too. Then she turned to me and said, do you need air? Because she knows I hate kitchens at parties. We went outside. I kissed her head. I wanted her more in that moment than I have in any ideal scenario because she read me, checked me, didn't turn the moment into a referendum. We walked around the block. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. We went home, and I didn't have to wrestle my brain for once. I was just there. That's what screws with me. If it were flatline attraction all the time, I'd have my answer. But spikes, real, honest hunger, and then it dips and I'm back in spin. I've been telling myself maybe that's marriage anyway. If we ever get there, years of ebb and flow, choices and valleys, joy on ridges. I'm 20. People will say I'm too young to be making these calculations. I agree, and also here we are. Money and logistics pressing too. We talk about moving in together because rent is a joke. When we look at crappy apartments with peeling paint and not enough outlets, I feel this domestic tug. Us arguing about curtains, us cooking in a tiny kitchen, us collapsing onto a hand-me-down couch. Then the ugly voice says, Are you really going to sign a lease with someone you sometimes have to psych yourself up to sleep with? It sounds harsh in my head. It also sounds like due diligence. I swing between be brave and choose love, and be honest and don't gamble with someone's future. I asked Nate what he'd do. Break up, he said immediately. You'll fixate on this forever and make her miserable. I wanted him to talk me out of it. He didn't. He said, you can also stay and decide to point your eyes at the woman in your life instead of a catalog of theoreticals. You can build discipline instead of chase dopamine. I said, so which is it? He shrugged. I'm not in your bed. I laughed and told him to choke. I keep a list in my phone of things I love about Maya because I'm dramatic like that and because I need reminders that aren't abstract. Her handwriting, slightly tilted, every G closed like a loop. The way she says, hey, when she picks up, flat like she's been expecting me for hours. How she touches the back of my head when I'm stressed and starts kneading at the base of my skull. And my whole nervous system takes a seat. The way she holds grief like a bird, gentle but firm. The fact that she, without fanfare, cleaned my gross microwave with lemon slices because it's easier than complaining. The way she refused to own my sobriety, but refuses to leave me alone with it either. The way she told me, you're not impressive sober. You're you. That's better. I read the list on bad days. It helps. Not in a cheesy way. In a remember the real person way. Someone's going to read this and say, you're an asshole. Let her go. You might be right. Someone else will say, attraction waxes and wanes. You can grow it. You might be right, too. I'm not asking for a chorus of permission. I'm writing this because I needed to say out loud the thing I keep hiding behind. I'm working on it. I am working on it. I just don't know if the work is supposed to be here, with her, or somewhere else alone, so I don't waste her 20s trying to rewire myself. We had another talk last night. She came over after work, hair damp from shower, bag over her shoulder, smelling like whatever clean lotion she uses. We ate leftovers. We watched stupid videos. I had that knot in my throat all night because I knew I needed to say something and also didn't want to shoot a hole in the ceiling. I paused the show. Can we talk? She turned toward me, tucked a leg under, braced for impact. I keep thinking about what you said. I started. About choosing you or choosing a fantasy. Okay, she said. I want to choose you. I said. I need you to know that choosing you isn't a magic fix. I still have a brain that chases shiny things. I'm trying to not feed it. Some days I'll lose. I don't want to hide from you when that happens. I also don't want to dump it on you like it's your job to fix. She nodded. I can live with that, she said. I can't live with being compared. I know, I said. I'm sorry. I meant it like a present tense apology, not just real estate we're moving on from. I'm not going to ask you to change anything. If you ever want to change something for you, cool. But I can't keep asking you to wear a different costume just because my lizard brain is bored. She smiled, small but real. I appreciate that, she said. Then, straightforward as a math problem. Do you want to be with me long term? The room rang. I felt the answer before I formed it. Yes, I said. I do. It was scary to hear my own mouth say it, because it meant I was choosing a path that doesn't leave room for sabotage disguised as confusion. If you'll have me, I will, she said. Then, but if I ever feel like I'm auditioning again, I'll walk. You won't have to wonder. That's fair, I said. I pulled her close. We sat like that for a while. My phone buzzed and I didn't check it. She fell asleep on my shoulder, breath warm against my neck. The kind of simple intimacy I used to think meant something was missing because nobody was screaming or breaking furniture. I felt, weirdly, like I just signed up for a marathon. Not because I dread it, because I know it's a lot of steps I have to take on purpose. We didn't have electric sex after that talk. We brushed teeth and crawled into bed and held each other. In the dark, she said, I know you think you're vain. I don't think you're vain. I think you're scared. I said, of what? She said, of wanting a thing so normal you can't spin a story around it. I didn't sleep much. I watched the window go from black to early gray and try to let myself want the boring, normal, steady thing without making it spicy in my head. So where does this leave me? Here. I am in love with a woman whose face I sometimes try to Photoshop in my mind, and I hate that about myself. She is beautiful in ways that matter and in ways that don't. And I want to be the kind of man who doesn't need a neon sign to notice. I'm sober today. I wasn't always. She didn't do that for me. She made space so I could do it without lying. I don't know if I deserve her. Deserving isn't the point. The point is whether I can show up and not make her pay for the parts of me I haven't healed yet. If you're going to tell me to leave, I get it. If you're going to tell me to stay and grow, I get that too. The truth is messier than the advice. I love her, and I don't always want her. And some days those facts wrestle, and some days they hold hands. I'm trying to feed the part of me that sees her, the actual her, not the idea of her or the fear that I'll never feel enough without chasing more. If I can't, I hope I'll be brave enough to let her go without turning it into some noble martyr act. If I can, maybe this is what being 20 and not an idiot looks like. Choosing again and again the real person on your couch over the parade in your head. And shutting up long enough to let the quiet, decent part of you catch up